You're listening to The Practice of a Hoodoo Baptist, my personal journey of root work, faith, and ancestral wisdom. I'm the creator and host, Chelsea VonChaz. This is where I honor the ones who came before me, share what's been passed down, and walk you through my experiences of being unapologetically aligned, covered by spirit, guided by blood. Today, I have a special guest for y'all. We got Kristian A. Smith, my homeboy, who happens to
Yeah.
be a spiritual humanist and community builder who leads the faith community. If y'all don't know, the faith community is a digital space where theology becomes transformational, okay? Known as the heretic and host on the Holy Smoke Cigars and Spirituality podcast. We're going to talk about that. He's the curator of the Greatest Commandment Theology, a Black church kid with a fierce commitment to inclusivity. Kristian disrupts harmful traditions while showing love for all, even as he especially uplifts Black people. My guy.
Yo, what up?
Listen, I have been waiting. Okay, story time.
Yeah.
So, y'all, me and Kristian met through a mutual friend.
Yeah.
The mutual friend is how do I say? The mutual friend, without I'm not giving the identity. But the mutual friend is, if not now, at least at the time, was a proud atheist. Okay? I'm
Really?
going, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Proud atheist, or just more so like, maybe more so lean towards agnostic. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just here, y'all. I don't think shit happens after you die. Anyway, so to my surprise, he's like, okay, I'm at brunch with my homeboy. Just come to brunch. So y'all meet. Y'all believe in something. Y'all believers. Y'all be cool. I'm like, okay. And so when you were like, when we met, I loved your energy. And you were like, oh no, I'm actually, I'm a pastor. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? And you friends with, but our mutual friend, they have all kinds of friends and just different. I think it's very beautiful. He can just make friends. You a good person. You got a good spirit. You can make friends. But I was just like, really?
That's why I never introduce myself to people as a pastor, because it comes with preconceived notions.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So like when people I'm with introduce me to somebody else as a pastor, I'd be like, nah, don't do that.
Yeah.
Allow the person to come to their own conclusions based on their experience of me. And then we can talk about what I do, and you can like piece that together for yourself, like whatever that means to you.
Exactly. Because I want to say, even then, I don't think you shared that until like we were already like eating or something. And I'm not even sure how that even how it even came up. But no, I was just like, oh really? Like that's so cool. But also because for me, when I do meet, I've had business meeting with folks who are pastors, casual conversations, casual meetings. And if for me, in my experience, the energy is always not so welcoming, or it's just always this weird kind of shift. So for you, your energy was just so different because it was calm, it was cool, like you ain't give a fuck, who I was or whatever. It wasn't about like, because even I've had meetings where I remember having a meeting with two guys who were pastors, and one of them was trying to create like this feminine care line, like with their daughters or something like that. So I was like consulting with them, and I remember when the food came, they looked at me weird because I didn't want to hold hands and pray.
That's hilarious.
They're like, bow your head. So I'm like, okay, yeah, go ahead. Because I was already in the Brussels sprouts. What you mean?
Yeah.
Leave me alone. So yeah, it's always this weird, it's just always this weird energies. It's always a shift. I know what it feels like.
We're programmed to be pretentious. Pastors are like, because we're programmed to believe that we can allow people to see our humanity. So when I started down this path on my ministry, of just being real open and authentic, like, yep, I smoke cigars, I drink bourbon, I cuss, and I really care about people. and I
Yeah.
care about not harming people. And they're like, you can't like let people see that because they're not going. So when you're dealing with pastors, you're usually dealing with that wall of pretense.
Yeah.
If I can't let you actually see who I am as a person, I got to hold up the image you have of me in your head.
Yeah.
In this age of authenticity, that just doesn't work for a lot of people. So I understand what it's like when you're dealing with pastors and like, something ain't right. It's because these niggas be hiding and lying because they don't want you to know who they are.
Yeah, that's the truth. And truly, friend, I think that's also why folks really appreciate your work and your content, your style, and how you're doing it. Because I think it's refreshing because the authenticity shows. I think authenticity wins every time. So I think also that's why a lot of folks are really gravitating towards the faith community, one, and also the space that you have created online, even with your wife. Oh, and how is she, by the way?
Yeah, she doing all right. We taking a little time off right now. So yeah, the
Yeah.
wife is good. She's gearing up for the fourth quarter. She does a lot of like internal ministry. So
Okay.
when you see me on the public platforms, like that's just like a sample of what we do in our Patreon community. So my wife has a monthly meetup virtually where she goes through different therapeutic aspects of religion, religious trauma, deconstruction. Right now, she's in the middle of a series about guilt and how guilt has been weaponized in religious spaces, but also how guilt can be a healthy response to certain actions. And how do we distinguish between the two? When is this guilt like wearing us down in a negative way? And when is it an indicator of a change we need to make? So, she does that real deep therapeutic, emotionally healthy spirituality work within our community.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so needed. I'm let's say because I definitely want to speak to her too, because I appreciate her perspective on the podcast, because I think she brings a really great balance.
A lot of people do. Like, she's a recurring voice on the podcast.
Yeah.
But like, recently we just released an episode and she wasn't on that episode. And somebody in the comments said, where's Pamela? It's like, she gonna be on the episode, but she's not on all of them.
Yeah. No, she's great. No, that's funny, because it's like, we're first lady. Yeah, that's cool. But I wanted to ask, like, what, because the authenticity, it's everything. And I think with you having cigars, conversations, and God as the center point of the topic, like what inspired you to weave all of that together?
Yes, I'll like work my way up to how I got to that point, because it's a whole backstory. So
Okay,
I'm a
go
church
ahead.
kid, right?
Yeah.
Fifth generation Baptist preacher. My dad was my pastor. My granddad was a pastor. My great granddad was a pastor, and his uncle was a pastor. So I'm 5 generations in. My parents raised me to treat people right, and they raised me to think critically. My dad used to, like, I would ask my dad for certain privileges or permissions to do things, and he would be like, well, state your case. Why should I let you do that? So he was training me to, build logical arguments then, but they didn't allow me, or they didn't encourage me to apply that to my faith.
Yeah.
Like, because when it came to faith and theology, you're not supposed to critique that. You're just supposed to embrace it. You're not supposed to question it. You're just supposed to internalize it and then regurgitate it. So, that was a part of my upbringing. And even with that, my dad was disruptive in his own right. National Baptist Convention in California in the 80s, he was ordaining women to preach. The National Baptists didn't acknowledge women as preachers until like last year.
Period.
My dad was
Okay.
ordaining them in the 80s. So like there was that aspect of it. And then later on, when I'd acknowledge the call into ministry, because I believe that it's particularly the ministry that I do, I don't think it's something that you should choose. I think you got to let it choose you, because it can be so demanding. it can be so, it's also fulfilling, but it's also taxing. So when I acknowledged my call in the ministry, my dad told me, all right, son, a call to preach is a call to prepare. So if you're going to do this for real, you need to get educated. You need to get prepared for this work. So I went to seminary. Seminary is when they gave me permission to use my critical thinking about my theology and my faith. And that opened the floodgates. So in seminary, I went to McAfee School of Theology at Mercer University. And when I got in there, they were like, yeah, think critically about this. Here's some information. Now, what you going to do with that? And that led to this theological evolution where now my theology has shifted in ways that is way more inclusive. It's way more critical of the doctrines and dogmas that we've been given. And I built my ministry around unpacking all of that and coming to a greater sense of Christ consciousness through the lens of the greatest commandment. So the greatest commandment is that we love God, we love our neighbors, and we love ourselves. And then when I started the faith community, I was, putting stuff together for people to come and engage in conversation with us around these topics and discover really early on that the people that we're called to serve do not want to come into this church to get what we got. So we started creating ministry outside of the church, just based on affinity. I've been a cigar smoker now for 12 years. My dad was a cigar smoker. Cigars lend themselves to great conversation. So I decided I'll bring some people together who want to get with me in the cigar lounge to talk about life, faith, and theology. And then it just took off from there.
And the community is so appreciative. The community is coming out. When I say it's so beautiful, because it's like for the folks who left the church for whatever reason, whether it's due to harm, being pushed out, just not feeling the environment of the church, or just not getting that sense of the culture of the church. Because for me, I'm originally from Mobile, Alabama.
What?
The church that I grew up in, yes.
The Post City.
What you know about Thomasville Pritchard? What you know about it?
Come on. I went to A&M in Huntsville.
Oh, word. Okay.
Yeah. So I had a lot of classmates and teammates from Pritchard. And,
okay.
Yeah, Grand Bay, like all down through there. Yeah.
See, man, like you better tell these people, Alabama people, when listen, we special.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I spent 7 years in Alabama. Still got a lot of connections to Huntsville. Yeah.
Nice.
I loved my time in Alabama.
Nice. Yeah, that's home for me. It birthed me, it raised me. I would say California, LA raised me a little bit too. New Orleans adopted me because that's where I would go all the time since I was a kid. But I was going to say, my family's church on my mother's side, they've been going to that church well over like 40 some years. So it's like great grandmama go there, mama go there, I had to go there. And Baptist, however, I would say Southern rooted Baptist. So like speaking in tongues, ring shouting, running miles, up and down the pew, wearing white on certain Sundays. Everybody wear white. River baptisms, pool baptisms, just all of that. So coming to California and going to a church, I'm like, what is this? No, it's not the same. It's not the same. So I wouldn't say I necessarily left the church because of harm necessarily, but more so just because it's like something's missing that I would need. But also I never felt the need to stay in the church to continue to have like my relationship with God. It's like the community part is cool, but to me didn't seem like I really need this as a center point of like my identity. So like when so with spaces like the faith community, I think it just makes room for a lot of different people who may have left the church or just never found even like a church home, due to traveling, growing up and things like that. Yeah, like a lot of us grew up in the church, in the Black church specifically. And I would say I don't really recognize the Black churches of today or the Black church today. I don't recognize it.
It's changed.
Yeah, it's changed a lot in ways that I can't rock with it at all. It is certain sprinkles of it that I would say that I recognized or kind of peeped ahead of time, as far as the culture of a lot of, the congregation majority Black women, but ain't no Black women up there preaching. And also, the pastor pulling up in his Maybach, but yet, you got a family of 5 and 6 pulling up, to go to church in like a old 98 Honda Civic, barely getting by. And it's like,
they caught a ride.
Okay, or they caught a ride. Caught a ride, or you know what I mean? And it's and I remember, I don't even remember a lot of these church names, but even in Atlanta, though, because I lived in Atlanta for a short period of time, and the first time that I heard a pastor say, I want to thank the congregation for, a collective donation of $120,000 last Sunday, I was like, damn.
What you think about that?
Well, at first, I'm like, that's a lot of money for Black people to be pulling into a church. And also, is he saying this number so y'all can beat it next week? So y'all can beat it today? And sure enough, that's why I'm like, I wish I knew the name of that church, because it was a church in close to like Stockbridge, Ellenwood area.
Okay.
Sure enough, he was like, come on, church, I know we can get it to 200. I know we can get it to 200,000, church. I'm like, let me wait. Maybe this gonna go to what's the fun given? Maybe this is like, a homeless outreach program, or like, a local missionary program, because when they be doing the missionary programs for overseas or to Africa, it's like a lot of that be rooted in white supremacy. Like, I don't believe it. I just was really, really skeptical, because by that time when I visit that church, like, I had already started my business. So I'm just kind of looking at it differently from like an entrepreneurship point of view, but also like, I'm not a member yet. So it's like, I'm trying to peep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it just didn't really seem like a lot was being poured back into the people. If I look at the congregation, like what they look like, everybody looks good by the, like, not trying to be negative, but if I'm looking at this pastor and looking at his congregation and the people, it's like something's not adding up outside of his bank account.
Yeah, I know that that's a thing that happens. I wouldn't be able to speak on that particular situation, because like big numbers aren't red flags to me. It's like, what are we doing with that money, right? Is everybody being taken care of with that money? Because if you got a ministry with a whole lot of programming and a whole lot of employees that are bringing these services to the community, then that stuff costs money. So for me,
absolutely.
particularly because I'm in that space, like I critique and pastors because I am a pastor of a church. So I can also relate to church and pastors. And I know the struggle that we have within our ministry with the skepticism around money, which is earned. Let me say that too. The skepticism is earned because many of us have been in places where there has been financial impropriety, where the pastor is taking more than the pastor's fair share. So we had to work through a lot of that, even internally in our ministry, where, like, again, authenticity, transparency. We got something called Finance Fridays, where every Friday we telling you what came in, what the goal is, and then with that goal, here's what that money covers. That money covers all of these things, because in order for us to do all these things, we got to pay people to do them well. So that's one of the ways I try to stay out ahead of that skepticism in my context, because I don't want people to be afraid of big numbers, because big ministry costs big money.
Yeah, for sure.
And people are always asking, I'll just speak for myself, people are always asking me for more. When can you come do this? When can you do this? When can you have this person? When can you do this? And it's like, when the resources are there, we can do anything.
That part.
So it's a very fine, it's a very like nuanced conversation for me, because I've seen the manipulation and I've seen the struggle of ministry, being a preacher's kid, and then being a pastor who for the first 5 years of my ministry poured out everything that I had, like my money, my time, my energy, my creativity, my emotional vulnerability. I poured it out. And because of the economic trauma that people had experienced, they just wasn't trying to hear it. So I struggled really, really bad, like to the point where my hair was falling out in patches early on in this ministry, because I was trying to navigate people's financial skepticism, which is earned. And it's like, but I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So how can we move forward with where we are now and what we're trying to do? It's such a nuanced conversation. It used to be like the bane of my existence.
Ooh. I'm glad you shared that. Thank you for sharing that, because when I feel that even within myself, that just makes me want to investigate. So even in that situation where, I just kind of moved as if I was going to join the church, because that's where I can actually ask questions to figure out, like, hey, what the programming looks like and what is it? Because my company's a nonprofit. So it's like my knowledge is a little different, or I understand the point of view of a nonprofit that's a church, or NGO, organization, foundations. Like, I get it, especially being Black and underfunded. I get it.
That's a thing, ain't it?
It is a thing. It is a thing. I'm tired. We all tired.
Yeah.
So and I have witnessed, I think also, I love the nuance of it, because to me it's like, it gives me pause. It's like, maybe it's not a red flag, but it's yellow, because now I want to investigate, because now I want to see, like, where can I add? Because I'm the type of person, when I was interested in joining churches, I'm not just interested in joining like as a member. It's like, okay, well, what else could I do? How could I pour into this space? Could I fit in another way? So a lot of times the mega churches never really like hold me or get me, because of just me seeing like so much more value in a smaller space. And it's like, damn, I wish they had y'all numbers for this smaller space, because this smaller space is actually like doing it for their community. Like, they're actually reaching people. There's no middleman with them. Like, it's very direct. And also just a lot of, even my mother's church, the church they've been going to for 40 years in Mobile, St. Louis Street. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't show them as much love, or churches like that as much love, because they are so rooted in their Blackness and their African spiritualities.
Yeah.
Folks, look at it like, there's those type of Negroes, and they be shouting and yelling and running around and all that plantation shit. Like, I've literally heard these types of comments about churches that are, again, just like super rooted. Like, not a white person set foot up in that church since never. And they're not talking about anything political even, which I want to tap into that, because that's also something is what I can't rock with a lot of churches now. And we're not saying all Black churches are like this, y'all. We're just saying it's too many damn Black churches that are allowing Christian nationalism, white supremacy to ring and live through there. Now, let me tell you something. I found out my first times of really understanding or figuring out how white supremacy gets in the Black church through me having a nonprofit, because that's when I started looking at, of course, churches tax exempt, but you can still look at paperwork as far as like who brings in money, who's doing the heavy funding. So that's when I realized, like, oh, it's a lot of these corporations or white-led foundations that make these allegedly hefty donations, but really in the end, it be chump change. And this is in exchange for something, whether it's like,
loyalty.
Yeah. And so that has, to me, was when I maybe stopped looking. like I said, the numbers is like, let me investigate. And then like investigate, and it's like, okay, this is why, you know, there's this different type of shift going on. But
I appreciate you saying, let me investigate. You know why?
yeah.
Because my wife had a brilliant thought on red flags. She was like, maybe we should treat a red flag like a stoplight. Like the red flag, and too many people are treating a red flag like a U-turn.
Got it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
a red flag doesn't mean turn around and go the opposite direction. I mean, let me stop. Let me investigate. Let me ask some questions, and let me see if this red flag, if this red light will turn green once I get my questions answered.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But a lot of people don't have the stamina or the courage or the desire to investigate when they see the red flag, because it's just like, I ain't got the time. I don't want to deal with it.
I got all three. Plus, I'm nosy.
There you go.
I'm nosy because I'm like, I got a nonprofit. This how I do it, but how you do it? Let me know what's going on. But yeah, it's really awesome to see the faith community pull up and to grow, and for folks to just be waking up in a, you know what I'm saying, like in a different way. And it's right on time. What you're doing, what you're creating is right on time, especially now with this political climate that we are in. And it's so much bullshit going on, and it's so draining. It's so draining. But I do love it. I appreciate every one of your deconstruction harmful theology videos. I just roll my eyes every time I see Miss Pappas, when you talking about Miss Pappas, and you know who Miss Pappas is.
Yes.
I never
heard
an
interesting journey.
I never knew that person. But I was just like, what is this? But
me neither. I was introduced to Jackie Hill Perry through my ministry. When my ministry really went to the internet, like, you know, at the top of the pandemic, that's when my ministry went virtual. We had just started a year and a half before the pandemic started. So we were a hybrid ministry. I was still trying to establish our identity in Atlanta. Because we're so disruptive, people weren't really sure what we were, what we believed. They, you know, just, there were so many unknowns. So when the pandemic started, I shifted, said, all right, let's build online. So that really made it clear to me that the internet is a place. Like, things happen on the internet that start on the internet, spread on the internet, and live on the internet. Now, it has impact in real life, but there's some stuff that only happens on the internet. Because, like, you know, for example, this conversation that we're having right now, it exists on the internet.
Yeah.
Because we're not even in the same physical space right now. So when I started doing ministry on the internet and people were coming to our internet community, they were bringing the baggage of other internet personalities that they have been under.
Got it.
And Jackie Hill Perry was one of the names that kept coming up. Because, you know, I read her book and I tried to do the stuff that she said we should do, and my mental health got worse. I experienced religious psychosis. I was depressed. I was anxious. I had suicidal ideation, so on and so forth. And I'm like, damn. And I didn't know who she was for real. So then I had to start looking into it and paying attention to the stuff she was teaching and really dissecting her theology and seeing how she was able to sink her claws into so many people's personal theology. So for me, it was like, I need to create a counter narrative to this. Yeah. Because this is, and I mean, you know, of course, her platform is significantly larger than mine. So I know I can't match her platform, but I can create my own little counter narrative over here in my corner of the internet to show people it can be another way. Like, if you want to hold on to your faith in Christ, so on and so forth, if you want to, you can do it in another way. And then, of course, there are people who are like, I don't want to do it at all. And to those people, I support them as well. Well, then figure out how you want to move forward in life without any of that.
Yeah.
And then we always come back to love your neighbor as yourself. Even if you go the atheist agnostic route, which a third of the faith community is atheist or agnostic. Low
Yeah.
key, like people don't realize that we got a lot of atheists and agnostic people in our community. Still, how you gonna love your neighbor as yourself? So with Jackie Hill Perry and all of them, like I don't know them. I ain't got no personal beef with them. I just don't like their theology because of the harm that it has on people: psychological harm, emotional harm, spiritual harm, and to some extent, physical harm happens to these people because of these death-dealing theologies that are being taught by people like Jackie Hill Perry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if that individual, it's a few individuals who, you know, I feel like if I just heard their voices, just listening to things that they're saying, but I can see what they look like, I would definitely think like, yeah, these are crackers. Because
Yeah.
because I don't want no one speaking ill of me at all as a human being, as a soul. I'm a soul.
Right.
I'm a spirit. So if anything that you're saying sound like some shit that an enslaver would say to get someone to submit to them, to be submissive and to take their critical thinking, to just mute them, to completely erase what they believe or what they feel, I don't want no parts of that at all. I don't care what divinity school you went to, you know, theology you think is so amazing. It's like, nah, you really have to sit back and think like, is this truly, is this love at all? You know what I'm saying? Because that's been my experience. So even though I grew up Christian Baptist specifically, I had a great experience of having a family on both sides, mom and dad. I'm an only child.
Okay.
Both sides, my family, them being cool with each other, and also just different people who practice different religions. So I had a granddaddy who was Muslim. I had an uncle who was a auntie and an uncle Jehovah's Witness. I had a couple of cousins who were more Buddhist, and some hoodoo, a lineage of hoodoo practitioners. Throw some hoodoo practitioners up in that mix too. And also indigenous Muskogee, Greek, Black Creeks, and Alabama Creole. So whole gumbo that I had to live with. And through that, even as a kid, my understanding was I didn't really need to necessarily pick a religion. I didn't need to pick nature over God or pick anything. It's like this is all one whole system. This is all part of the creation of God. And it's all about the love of God, because to me, that was what the common denominator was, that everybody had a love and a belief of God and just called God he or she, and different names, different languages, and that's what it was about. So even growing up, I never felt the need to pressure or push my beliefs onto others. I don't like it when people do that to me. I know what that feels like, what it smells like, what it look like. And when I noticed how Christian nationalism really is about racist white men or white people's, their thoughts and beliefs of wanting to be up here and everybody down here. And they said, oh no, there's a way for us to weed into these other spaces to just make it so that these folks are I guess essentially obedient to us in our theology. How are you able to manage this? I mean, I know we talked a little bit about, like, you know, you pouring into people, you gotta fill your own cup. Even in this political climate, like, how are you able to really manage this personally? Because you have, you know, you're building this community. The community's much appreciated, much needed. But we I don't know. I won't say we outnumbered by these dumbasses. But how do you manage that and deal with that?
So I think one thing that
Especially being
helps me is
online.
just, I think one thing that helps me is just my temperament, just how I'm wired as a person. I'm just kind of wired to not internalize
Okay.
what people think of me.
Yeah.
And some of that is hard wiring, and some of that is just my lived experience toughening me up. Because I think think my experience as the fat kid growing up toughened me up to people's criticism, because I would get picked on just for that. And once I like worked through that, it's like I don't care what people think about me anymore, right? So when I get all of the hate comments and vitriol and threats that people send my way on social media, what keeps me grounded is, first of all, I know who I am and I know the impact that my work is having on people. So I'm not going to allow somebody's discomfort with liberation to keep me from liberating people.
Yeah.
If people want to change, they want to be free from the shackles of fundamentalism and the bondage of dogma. If that's what they want, then I want to provide a space where they can get that. And all the other noise doesn't really matter to me. And I know that we're outnumbered. I know I cannot compete with these platforms that I critique as far as numbers are concerned, because there's no money machine behind me pushing this content. Because
Talk about it.
the social media game, like, that's money. People are putting money into these platforms, advertising. I was just watching an interview with La Russell, who's a hip hop artist out of the Bay Area. And, he was talking about his own platform. He's independent. And in order for him to do the numbers that he does, he says he puts 6 figures in marketing every month. So if you don't have that kind of cash pushing you, and I know he built that on his own and whoever helped him, but if you don't have that kind of cash, you can't compete on the same level numerically.
Yeah.
But as far as quality, you can compete as far as quality. You can compete as far as substance. And that's just what I try to do. I try to focus on the quality of what I say.
Yeah.
I try to focus on the substance of what I say. And then I try to take breaks when I need to, because I can't continuously do this work and not take time for myself. I also, and let me say this, because this has been coming up a whole lot recently, where I've seen a lot of people in these progressive spaces criticizing and demeaning creators who take money for their professional services. Like, if you're doing justice work, almost like you're supposed to take a vow of poverty. You're not supposed to accept money for your work. Let me tell everybody something. If somebody asks me for my professional services, I'm going to get paid. And I'm going to get paid what I'm worth based on my impact. And everybody should. And if we really want the voices that are pushing our agenda forward, our agenda of liberation and love and peace and justice, if we want those people to push the movement forward and be our voices in the movement, why do we want them to be poor? Poverty is not a virtue. And I really want progressive people to get over that shit, because that is so irritating. Why do I have to be poor because I care about justice?
You better preach.
I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't believe that.
You better preach.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired. Y'all, as a founder of a C3 for the last 11 years, I am tired. I feel seen by what you just said, because it's always thrown in our faces, especially because we're Black.
Yes.
It's like, no. No. I am not trying to be in poverty. I am not trying to stay exactly where I was when I got started. Like, no.
Yeah.
We're not doing this.
Having money is not the root of all evil. Even the text says, for the love of money.
Yeah.
When you lift money and power over love and liberation, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
But if the money is helping me to promote love and liberation, and I'm not exploiting anybody along the way, it's like people assume that if you got money, you must have exploited somebody.
Yeah.
But in our case, usually we the ones getting exploited.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, no, I'm the one that's being exploited.
Yeah.
And don't say no. When I say, like, we can't say no, it's like saying no is like, oh my God, you will be shunned. You will be blacklisted. You out if you say no one time.
God bless, because I say no all the time.
I love it. It's a complete sentence, ain't it?
I'm telling you, it's like I can't do that. I'm sorry. And like, if you want me to do the thing that you want me to do, this
That
is the
part.
rate that I require.
That part. Yeah.
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 Because I'm not asking you to let me come to speak at your event. You asking me to come. You asking me to take my time from the work that I'm doing to provide for my family to come to do your thing.
Exactly.
So,
Let me tell you something. The best.
Let's be reasonable.
How I shut all those types of conversations and asks and requests down. I let them know I don't support slavery.
Listen.
I don't support slavery. Sorry.
Listen.
Y'all can't be talking about it's Black women's, pay empowerment day and we make this much sense to the white man's dollar, but you're contributing to that exact same shit. So no, I don't support slavery of any kind. Not even, any type of enslavement of my own. So no.
Exactly.
Pay me. Thank you. And if you can't, then don't talk to me. Because I feel like folks don't be having these conversations with it's the main folks that don't get pushed to do stuff for free that be doing the most exploiting. They're doing the most stealing.
Mm.
I'm not even gonna go there because I live in Los Angeles. I see it all the time. It's very much a thing. Mm-hmm. Very much so. So I'm so glad you felt moved to say that, because that can be implied in so many spaces for folks like you that are doing the work, pouring into people through theology, creating faith communities, folks who are activists who are really putting in the work to advocate for folks in the Congo, folks Palestine. I see it. It's like a spectrum where it's like you have a heart, so you don't want any money. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's such bullshit.
What?
It's
if you're not going to work for free, why am I supposed to go to work for free? I don't understand that.
Listen, and labor is number one for being the most exploited, especially in this country. Labor.
Yes. When I was in seminary, with like a mixed group of people, but like a lot of white progressives, and white progressives are just different. And love them, but like they're just different, and they have a different view on the world because of the privilege that they come from. And I remember being in seminary at the time, my primary work was that of a custom clothier and a stylist. So I sold luxury custom tailored clothing. Okay. And I heard my classmates in like talking about, oh, that preacher had on this $500 pair of shoes. And I was like, I sell $500 shoes. So like, what are you trying to say? Like, a dude can't have on a nice pair of shoes that costs $500? Is that where you're drawing the line as far as what you consider purity? And I wrote a paper for my ethics class on economics, and I addressed that, like this privileged perspective on what is excessive. Because you're saying that this person who has earned the money to be able to buy some nice shoes is wrong for doing that because you can't afford it, or you only want to go get, some Birkenstocks. But if I compare your situation to somebody else who's in abject poverty, then that $7 Starbucks drink you get every day is excessive. So it's just like, we really, in this progressive space, we really have to do away with these purity tests. Yeah. Because progressives are creating, or have created, their own version of purity culture that they were trying to escape in the conservative spaces. It's just a new type of purity. Yeah. If you not impoverished, then you're not pure. The hell with that. Okay. The hell with that.
Oh man, it really needed to be said. We gonna move on, because baby, I'm drained just thinking about it, because I can't
thinking about it.
Deconstruction. Let's tap in, because I think I think a lot of people are scared of deconstruction. Not necessarily like the fundamentalists, but folks who just may feel like, if, deconstruction, I'm not going to have no family. I'm not going to have any friends. I will be left with nothing. I'm not going to have a community. I'm going to be shunned and shamed, and it's going to be even more horrible. What do you say to someone who may be scared that deconstruction will leave them with nothing to hold on to, I guess, or without any community. Because, well, first of all,
And
the community is here, y'all. It
yeah,
truly is. But what would you say to that person? Because it's not easy.
it's not easy at all.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, I would say you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna lose a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to determine if what you're going to gain is worth what you're going to lose. So then you have to ask, what is this worth to you? Because a lot of times people are willing to give up acceptance in a community
Mm-hmm.
that only accepts what they present and not who they are.
Yeah.
So if you're cool with being accepted in a community that doesn't honor your curiosity, doesn't honor your identity, doesn't honor your lived experiences, if you cool with that, then stay where you are. Cause I'm not trying to convince anybody to do anything they're not ready
Yeah.
for. So you will take losses and you have to determine, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest losses that people struggle with, even beyond the community, because community is like number one.
Mm-hmm.
When you are in a community built on shared belief, if your beliefs change, you no longer belong. So you got to take that into consideration. But another big thing that people have to consider, like, and I think it's important to name it,
Mm-hmm.
is that when you deconstruct, you also lose the sense of certainty that fundamentalism gave you.
Talk
Because we're
about it.
indoctrinated to believe that our beliefs are universal facts. So if we are presented with information that contradicts that, it could upend our entire view of the world, God, and ourselves. You got to be certain if you're ready to deal with that. Because I just had a conversation with somebody a couple of days ago. We were having a theological conversation, and they kept expressing their doctrine to me as if it was universal fact. Like they were like, so sin entered the world through Adam and Eve. And then because of the curse of sin, we got to deal with this. And we got all of this sexual confusion and transgender and cisgender. And I don't know what all this stuff is. And that's because sin entered the world. And I'm saying, listen, if that's what you believe, that's cool. But that's not a universal fact. That's your doctrine. You
Yeah.
are telling me your doctrine as if it is a universal fact. And I'm not saying you can't have your doctrine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I need you to separate your beliefs from facts. But fundamentalism requires you to treat your beliefs as if they are facts beyond question. So really, certainty is a thing that a lot of people have to be mindful of, because when you deconstruct, you have to lean into the mystery of theology, the mystery of spirituality. It's not certain. It's a mystery. It is ambiguous. It is uncertain. And that's the beauty of it. But you were taught to fear that in fundamentalism. So you now have to learn how to embrace the thing you were taught to fear your whole life. That's a big ask. So
Yeah.
you got to make sure before you get into this that you are aware that is going to happen. That's
Yeah.
going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think I really wanted to ask you that question because what I've been noticing with a few folks within my inner circle is, just them coming to grips with the fear part. And also, it's like it comes in different stages, like, such and such doesn't invite me out anymore. I haven't been asked to attend this and that, and maybe it's because of something that I posted, or maybe it's because of something this conversation I had. My circle and things are changing. My family members, they be, one of my friends said they have a family member that's always sending them scripture, that's
Oh yeah.
always, and she was like, it feels like bullying. It feels like I feel like a kid that's being bullied all over again. And they're like, but there's still a part of me that feels safe now that I'm in this space of deconstruction, or now that I have pulled away from the church or just completely left, and now I'm pulling away from certain individuals, and I feel elevated. So it's like this tug of war where folks feel good, they feel elevated, but yet because of the community, that's changing. I'm gonna tap into the sermon that you gave at the celebration. So
Okay.
what I loved about what you said, or something that you did in speaking, is sharing how we do have the tools and the resources. We have some of the same tools and resources that our ancestors had, that have passed down to us. And we are in this fight, and we can fight. We can continue this fight, and we will continue to survive. And you not only mention God, Creator, Jesus Christ, but you also mention our ancestors, Olodumare, the Orishas. And I think that was my favorite part. That was really, really beautiful, because one, not a lot of pastors acknowledge ATRs, African traditional religions, or African derived religions, or indigenous African religions. I'll just say that as well. So I do think that is what makes you stand out, and it's what makes you unique, and why I think a lot of folks, even within, I don't even know if you know this, but a lot of folks even within the ATR space speak highly of you.
Oh, I appreciate
a lot
that.
of like the Babalawos, Iyas, a lot of priests, African priests, speak really highly of you. And also, I mean, a lot of them came from the church, or had some type of experience with the church. Why was it so important? And I don't know if you also may want to share, like, why it was so important for you to gain more knowledge about these other traditions and religions of our people, of our ancestors, and or even like what clicked for you.
Yeah, so what you're talking about now, or the question that you're asking me, is shifts from deconstruction to decolonization, which is what gets left out of a lot of people's deconstruction journey. They don't take a close look at the colonial roots of the theology that we have.
Yeah.
I'm a theologian, so I study how people connect to God and what that connection leads them to be in the world. And when I study theology throughout the ages, and I understand the version of Christianity that was presented to our ancestors, I begin to understand the purpose of why that version of Christianity was presented to us. Also, when I study these various forms of history, when I study the history that we see woven throughout the Bible, when I study church history that is outside of the Bible, like actual, after the time of the Bible, the development of the church throughout the ages, when I study all of these things, because my people, my ancestors come from West Africa, I think, how were my people impacted by these various historic events that I'm learning in my Western education? Because in my Western education, nobody's talking about the impact that it had on West Africa before colonization. So I come to discover we had our own spiritualities then. Like, Christianity was present, but it was minor. And most people in our ancestral land were not acclimated to Christianity, did not practice Christianity prior to colonialism. So it's like, okay, we as a people survived and thrived for generations before Christianity was ever a religion. Yeah. So then I said, I got to figure out why we now think the religions that sustained us prior to Christianity are somehow now demonic, that our ancestors are demons. And when I study the history of European colonization and how Christianity was used to carry that out, and how that theology was then forced onto us, how we were separated from our culture and our language and our families not allowed to play our instruments, not allowed to practice our spirituality. And why that was done, it was to disconnect us from the inherent power that we have. So now it's like, okay, my decision at that point is, how do I incorporate this into who I am? Because it's already a part of me. It's just an unacknowledged part of me because of the way that I was conditioned to see the world in this Western society. And I know some people, they just want to like discard the church, discard Jesus, discard Christianity. And I get it. And I ain't trying to convince anybody to not do that. Right. Then you got some people who are like, no, that African spirituality is demonic. Them crystals and sage, they going to hell. Right. And I'm definitely not doing that. So I find myself here in the middle where I want to embrace all of my ancestral heritage. And my ancestral heritage definitely includes the pre-colonialism West African spirituality. My ancestral heritage includes Yoruba and Ifa. I don't know exactly which one, but I know we in there somewhere. So I want to honor that and how I move through the world. And my ancestral heritage includes the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 generations of Black Christians.
Yeah.
And what those people were able to accomplish, survive, create, and how they did use the message of Jesus to do that, to power that. So for me, it was just about finding that balance and that harmony between these various traditions and how they all make up who I am as a spiritual person. So yeah, a lot of it, it's like critical race theory. We learn all of this history. Now, how does this history apply to us? When Jesus was walking through Nazareth, what were my ancestors doing way on the other side of the continent?
Yeah.
They don't have to be in competition with each other. They can coexist.
Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't comfortable with that level of nuance in their spirituality. I just try to make room for it. And the people who desire that level of nuance, they're welcome to have it.
Yeah. Let me tell you, having folks of the ATRs community in my life, it has changed me, transformed me tremendously.
Yeah.
Because it requires to have those relationships. It requires accountability. It requires for you to check your biases. It requires you to check your internalized racism. And it's also really beautiful to see just certain things, the expansion, because a lot of ATRs, the language just so much. It's so big. It's not like English. It's not. It's even their theologies. It's just so grand. It's like, wow, like Greek mythology. What? Like, no.
Yeah.
It's just transformational. That's like the best way I can put it. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the priests speak highly of you, and and use a lot of the same words I use, like, with your community, like it's so refreshing, and the things that you're saying and how you're deconstructing. And yeah, and you leaning into having a better understanding and learning. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Albert Rabateau. He was Albert Rabateau Ibaye, may he rest. He was for a long time, the professor of religion at Princeton, I believe.
Okay.
But his book is Slave Religion. In his book, Slave Religion, The Invisible Tradition, he talks about the religion, spiritual practices of enslaved people, because at a time, and this book came out, I want to say in the 70s. That was like during his prime time at Princeton. But he, at that time, talked about how everybody wants to talk about Christianity. Nobody wants to talk about the religions of Black people. So he was one of the first scholars to actually tap into, slightly different from James Cone, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like slightly different, because his concentration was definitely on the enslaved community, because nobody was studying what their practices, what they believed in. And a huge chunk of the book goes far back, like 17, because it is from what Dr. Yvonne Shiro was saying, because she was like, it's really hard because of, us not having certain proof of certain things, and the proof that we do have, it's like, more so closer to, after Civil War and everything, but really tapping into what our folks brought back over through the transatlantic slave trade, what practices they kept with them, and what their form of Christianity was, which is always so interesting to me to see folks arguing on threads and Instagram about like Christianity being in Africa at this time and that time. And I'm like, I can tell you don't read. I can tell. But yeah, like for anyone who's listening, I highly recommend tapping into his work, that book, Slave Religion, especially when you are doing the work of deconstruction, because it is work.
It's work. Yeah.
It is work. And also just to bring more understanding and empathy towards our folks, because it forces you to change your language too. Like even for me, say ancestors, I say enslaved, make it like it's their fault. And, like it's showing respect and having an understanding. And I truly believe, it's impossible to know your future if you don't know your own history and what you've been through and your folks have been through. But man, it's so awesome. It's always great to talk to you. I'm like so happy you exist, because
I appreciate it.
Because man, as someone who I practice now out loud, and like I said, I've always felt just the love of God and felt like that was all I needed when it comes to having church communities or religious communities. I wouldn't even say I'm a religious person outside of like just practice. I do love the study of religion. I love like folks like you and Danielle Thompson. I'm like, oh, like I feel the need to have another degree. I wonder if I should it. Do I want to have another degree in theology this time? Like, just I don't know. It's like the spirit of the Black woman spirit of having another degree. It just be tapping in sometimes, and I'm like, ooh, but should it be divinity? Because y'all are just so inspiring, and I also feel like too, like the work that you're doing, the work that all of y'all are doing through books, virtual spaces, content creation, it's necessary for our survival and our motion in this resistance. Because yeah, for me, like being in the reproductive space, I felt like, yeah, I need to tap into more of understanding women's health, reproductive health. So I became a certified full spectrum doula for my knowledge. And even from that made me tap more into and having an ATRs community, but that made me tap more into understanding or wanted to understand, how did our ancestors deal with birth work, reproductive health back then when we weren't even allowed in hospitals.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned about granny midwives and enslaved women and folks creating churches, Black folks actually creating sanctuary spaces because they weren't allowed to be in other spaces where there were white people, and then how slave codes came to be with folks not wanting Black people, African folks, enslaved folks to congregate, and saying you cannot talk about religion unless you're talking about the Bible, and so on and so forth. Like just so much just led me to where I am now, to where I have this platform. So I'm so grateful for you, because I think we all in this fight together.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important that we all come at it from our different perspectives.
Yeah.
What you do is important, and it's different from what I do, and it's different from what Danielle does, but they're all important in their own right. And what I try to convey to people who have left the church is that like not everybody's gonna leave the church. And making that your mission is a failed mission before you even get started, because some people not gonna leave because it means that much to them. So we can get free and people still have their connection to the church, because the church is what helped us get some of the freedom that we got right now.
Yeah.
So the place that I hold in the world is to is particularly my generation know you can leave and get liberated. you can stay connected and get liberated because the revolution is here.
Yeah.
The revolution is in your mind. That's what Gil Scott-Heron said. The revolution will not be televised because it happens in your mind. And there are some people who will leave the church physically, but their mind is still there.
Yeah.
Their mind is still fundamentalist. Their mind is still judgmental. It's still dogmatic. It is still very binary, black or white. And what I am trying to do in my work is help people to open up their mind, whether they leave the church or stay.
Yeah.
I'm not invested in whether you leave or stay.
Period.
I want you to know you have the option, though.
Yeah.
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 I want everybody to know you have the option and that the revolution begins here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, can we really quick before I let you go, can we I'm going to ask you to talk to someone that maybe that's where they're at right now, where they're not necessarily sure if it's about leaving physically and mentally, or let's just do this. Let's do it this way. If you could talk directly to your younger self, Black church kid, Christian, in the pews, growing up in the church, what wisdom would you offer?
If I could take my younger self to the greatest commandment, because the greatest commandment changed my life. When I was trying to figure out what to make of my faith and my theology, because seminary turned it on its head, I got to the greatest commandment, and I would take my younger self to the greatest commandment and say, look, you believe in Jesus, right? Okay, cool. Look at what Jesus said right here. When somebody asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment in all of the law? He said, the greatest commandment is that you love God with your heart, soul, mind, and your strength. And then the second part is like it, that you love your neighbor as yourself. And then he goes on to say, everything in the law and everything in the prophets hinge on these two: love God and love neighbor as self. To the extent that when Jesus said, love God, and the second part is like it, love your neighbor as yourself, that term like in the original text, that Greek term, it means of equal rank, which means love God and of equal rank, love your neighbor as yourself, because everything hinges on those two together.
Yeah.
So love for God is not more important than love for neighbor as self. As a matter of fact, love for neighbor as self is the essence of love for God, because you can't take one without the other. So I would tell my younger self that consider for a moment if this could be true, that your love for God is expressed in how you love your neighbor, and your love for your neighbor is an expression of the love that you have for yourself, which means that self-love is at the core of the gospel. And I would ask myself, what are you doing to learn how to love yourself right now? How can you develop that? What does that look like for you? What does it look like for you to speak well of yourself, to think highly of yourself, and not more highly than you should, not in comparison to other people, but just because you exist, that you're not a filthy rag just by the nature of your existence. What if you could stop leaning into the messages that we get from church, that the heart is deceitful and the mind is wicked and you shouldn't be able to trust yourself? Those are the things that I would say to myself, like, I want you to dig deeper into those teachings and beliefs and ask yourself, how does the greatest commandment apply here? This belief that I have, does it reflect me loving myself? Does it reflect me loving my neighbor as myself? And if it doesn't, how in the hell am I loving God in that? And that's just what I encourage people to do. That's what I would have encouraged myself to do, is to really take seriously what Jesus said is the greatest commandment. If you claim to follow him, this is what he said was the greatest commandment. And ain't nobody told you how important it is for you to love yourself. You should ask yourself why. Why has no one told me how important it is for me to love myself? And that's the work.
You better preach.
You silly.
You better give the children what they need. No,
I
and also
appreciate the opportunity.
no, in all seriousness, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for your friendship. Thanks for the work that you're doing, because I know it's not easy, and as someone that is also advocating, serving community, I know it could be hard, it could be draining, and I know, especially with us, like, it's like, oh, you be trying to save niggas, but niggas don't want to be saved.
They don't.
But you're doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. What you got going on though right now? Like, is there any tea you can spill about what's going on with the faith community? Anything new? And let the folks let them you.
Yeah, so our anchor programming, because a lot of people don't know this about us, like we don't worship on Sundays. We worship, 2 or 3 times a year. Our anchor programming is the Holy Smoke Cigars and Spirituality podcast. So you can connect with the podcast on your favorite podcasting platforms. If you want to watch episodes or watch clips on YouTube, then you go to the TFC.virtual YouTube channel because Holy Smokes is a ministry of the faith community. And then I'm on sabbatical right now. I'm not sure when you're going to release this, but I'm on sabbatical for September. And here's a little tea that I hadn't even told my community about yet, but in October, we're going to introduce TFC Live every Wednesday night so that we're going to have a consistent recording live stream schedule that everybody in our community, in our Patreon community, knows that every Wednesday night TFC is going live. We're going to talk about life, faith, and theology. We're going to talk to interesting people, record episodes of the podcast. I might just get on there and talk shit every now and then. You never know what's going to happen.
Ooh, yes. And y'all starting this in October?
In October, yeah.
Okay, I'm in that thing. 1, I'm October 2nd. That's my B-Day. 2, October is Hoodoo Heritage Month.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
I love it.
So all the scholars, the practitioners, the everybody anybody associated with the tradition in the community, we all tend to, we just use that as a moment to just spread awareness, to educate people, to connect. You'll see a lot more like programming, during that time of the month. We give veneration to certain ancestors like Nat Turner. From Nat Turner to Zora Neale Hurston, like anybody who's Black that had anything to do with keeping the tradition alive, we honor them. So yes, like let me in on that thing.
I'm sure there will be some stuff going on in our community because we got a connection group in our digital community called Black Women in African Spirituality, and that group was a byproduct of Black Women in African Spirituality being an episode topic on the podcast. That became like our most popular topic.
Oh yes, I watched.
Yeah, so yeah, like I already know if next month is Hoodoo Heritage Month, they gonna have things going on in there, and we definitely got to talk about it on the platform too. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if I want to say I have at least once or twice, and there's book clubs, Kristian, like there's ATR groups where that particular podcast episode was dropped and folks had like whole discussions about it. No, wow. I'm for real because y'all have done more than one, right?
We done like 7 of them.
Okay, I was about to say. Okay, yeah. And they're like, I think, but like you did one around like, or is it always in March during Women's History Month, or has it?
Oh, we've done them at random times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's, again, like, it's folks, we ain't peeped. Come on now. Like, it's really folks that are super appreciative or of just having this space that you and your wife and so many others that you've created. Like, it's so on time, like I said, and I thank you. I
appreciate it. I'm glad to do the work.
Thank the ancestors for you, Lordy, because I'm tired out here and so drained, and I'm tired of arguing with folks about what is demonic and what isn't. I'm like, whew, I got cussed out on Threads. I almost got banned.
Oh, Lord. No.
Yes, because I said, I mean, I be saying a lot of things. But I want to say for this particular, it's been a couple threads where I low-key got in trouble for. Somebody tried to dox me too, child. Ooh, so I was like, you know what? Let me get over this. But I don't know. I said something that pissed off my Black church group members. Something like, from crystals to sage to the movie centers, y'all calling this demonic. Well, white supremacy is right there.
Yeah, it's like the stuff that offends people is wild, ain't it? Yeah,
very wild.
If we look at the threats to our community, none of them have anything to do with hoodoo, Ifa, Yoruba, any of the West African traditional religion. Like, it has nothing to do with any of that. The stuff that we're facing, particularly in this moment in time, is completely tied to Christian nationalism and white supremacy.
Yeah.
And we don't have time to get into all of that right now, but like the facts are the facts, and if you study history, and not the American propaganda that is presented as history, but if you study actual history, is not really that difficult to see. You just got to want to see it.
Absolutely. And stop being so blind and so dense, Law. Everybody want to be obtuse. I'm over it. Again, thank you. Appreciate you. Love you. All right, y'all. Y'all been listening to the practice of a Hoodoo Baptist, covered by spirit, guided by blood. Until next time, peace.